This episode is brought to you by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Some things are just better together, like party playlists and Friday nights, campfires and ghost stories, peanut butter and chocolate. And Reese's Cups are the perfect combination of creamy peanut butter and delicious milk chocolate. So, when you want something sweet, you can't do better than Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Buy Reese's today wherever candy is sold.
This Friday, Captain Marvel returns.
So what are we looking at?
There's a different reality bleeding into ours.
And a new era arrives.
You cannot protect your people.
You're forgetting something. I'm invincible.
Be there for the moment that changes everything.
She tore a hole in space.
I'm asking for one last fight.
I'm ready.
Now!
The Marvels in theaters Friday. Get tickets now. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 178 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Justin Chancellor from Tool and MTVoid, I want to remind you about all of the features of MistressCarrie.com. Not only can you find every episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast, but you can also find all of the episodes of my video show, Cocktails in the War Room. You can keep track of all of the rock shows coming through New England in the concert calendar. You can check out my blog, get yourself a Mistress Carrie backstage pass, and you can shop in the online Mistress Carrie store. Find all that and more at MistressCarrie.com. Coming up this Friday, November 10th, Justin Chancellor's band MTVoid is releasing their sophomore album, Matters Not Part 1, 10 years after the release of their debut album. Justin Chancellor, of course, the bass player in Tool, who is out on the road with the band right now. Tool have got a bunch of shows in New England, including this Friday, November 10th at the Mohegan Sun Arena, Saturday, November 11th at the Mohegan Sun Arena, November 13th at the SNHU Arena in Manchester, New Hampshire, and on Wednesday, November 15th at the TD Garden in Boston. I was so excited when I found out Justin Chancellor accepted my invitation to come on the show. So allow me to introduce you to Justin Chancellor from Tool and MTVoid. Mr. Justin Chancellor, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're out on the road with Tool right now. Do you even know what city you're in?
Well, I believe today we're in Knoxville, Tennessee, but we literally arrived about 2 hours ago we drove from Milwaukee last night, which was quite a chat. It was about a 10-hour drive, I think. Yeah.
Are you able to sleep on the bus? Can you get good rest while you're driving?
I actually sleep really well on the bus. You know, it's always a problem if you get to sleep and then you arrive at the venue and the bus stops, you tend to wake up. But when you're rolling along the freeway, it's somehow it works really well. I mean, you know, babies always go to sleep in the back of the car, right? It's pretty much the same deal. As long as you have a good driver, obviously.
Do you have to adjust when you get home because the bed's not moving after that?
Well, I always say to my wife, we should make a room in the house that's designed like a bus bunk, you know, so we can decompress when we get home. Yeah, it's always a little bit of a change.
You've been out on the road for a lot of years, and so I always say musicians are some of the best traveled people in the world. Where are some of the places, because obviously you can tell by your accent you're not American, where are some of the places that you like to go, that when you get time off, you like to walk around and sightsee?
Well, I mean, anywhere really. Europe's amazing because every day when you're traveling the same distance you travel in America, but you're traveling into a different country each day. So that's always like, information overload, cultural, saturation. So Europe's amazing for that. I always take a bike with me. I take a mountain bike. So I have it under, in the bay of the bus. So any day off, that's what I do on my day off. And it's not so much, it's for exercise, it's good exercise, but it's also just to get out and be able to travel around your area and see stuff. So that's the way I do it. But obviously in Europe, there's a lot to take in. But I equally enjoy traveling in the States. So we just got back from Canada. We were up there for maybe a week and a half in the snow, and there's different stuff to see up there. I always like to go out find a river or a lake. That's always a good way to explore. Just kind of follow the river. But everywhere's got something interesting going on. There's a reason there's a town that you're in. So you go and try and figure it out, find those interesting parts of it, and try and absorb some of the stuff for inspiration.
Well, you're going to be in Boston on the 15th, and we've got a pretty famous river, so there's a chance people could see Justin Chancellor just pedaling by along the Charles.
There's a very, very big chance. Yeah, I love Boston, and that's where you are now.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, I'll be at the show, so I can't wait either.
I'll wave.
I love having artists come on the show that balance multiple projects, because my musical career ended in the marching band in high school with the clarinet. And so I'm always fascinated by the idea. To me, it's amazing that you could write music and be successful in one band. But when you're tackling multiple projects, is the inspiration for Tool music completely different from the inspiration for MTVoid? Like, how does it work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's who you're collaborating with that really affects that, with in MTVoid, we're trying to be really experimental, basically, and it's a very liberating experience writing that stuff with Peter, because there's no preconceived rules or direction. It's very reactionary. Like, he sends me something, I listen to it and put something over it, or several, experiment with it for a while, and then I'll send him back a bunch of stuff, and it'll just grow like that, just from our reactions to what each other does. So in Tool, it's more of a thought out process where we're all together and we're discussing it and we're trying to create a structure almost. And there's a lot of, we have a blackboard, even, like a whiteboard with all the ideas, and this is the chorus and this is that. And it's a different, that's more of a band's writing way, so they're different processes. And especially since we recorded this MTVoid album during the pandemic, it's even further different since it was all done completely remotely. So that's a whole different way of being inspired. You're just sending files to each other, and the guy isn't there breathing over your shoulder, so you're literally just experiencing it for the first time, sitting on your own in your studio. And that's it's a cool way of being really honest with your reaction. Because nobody's influencing it, nobody's sitting there like staring at you thinking, what do you like about this? So yeah, they're just they're different ways of writing, which makes them refreshing from each other.
It seems to be the only good thing that came out of COVID is this treasure trove of creativity from all of our favorite musicians.
Yeah, and like just the realization that that's a real possible way of doing it. You know what I mean? Like, because it wasn't. I don't think it was that common. I mean, we've done collaborations before with people in that way, but maybe just the odd person sending in a vocal or something, but not creating an entire pile of music, you know, without even being in the room with someone. So I think that's it's cool. I mean, a lot of people want to continue like that. You know, they're like, "This is great. I'll stay at home." But you know, they're both. It's very thrilling being in a room with other musicians too, and actually, you go, "Well, let's try this," and then you actually can physically play it loud together. That's got its own magic, you know, and its own inspiration.
Technology always seems to, as it changes, allow for new music to be made. And I bring it up because we're recording this interview on the day that we got a new Beatles song, which no one could have imagined would have ever been released.
Really? Wow. I don't even know anything about that.
Oh, really? They had a cassette tape of John Lennon playing the piano and singing a song in the 70s. And the Beatles in the 90s tried to do something with it, but they couldn't separate his voice from the piano on the cassette.
Okay.
And George Harrison recorded guitar parts back in the 90s, but they were never able to work a complete song. And Peter Jackson has this new MAL technology through AI where they were able to pull John Lennon's just his voice off of the cassette. And they released a new song, what they're calling the last Beatles song. And it was only possible because of AI technology.
That's incredible. Is it any good?
So they released a short film yesterday on YouTube explaining how it happened.
Yeah.
And it made me, as a lifelong Beatles fan, a little weepy because 43 years after John Lennon's passing, to hear the lyrics of this song and to listen to it this much later, I got a little misty-eyed. I got to be honest. It was, and of course it's good. I mean, it's
that's really crazy. I mean, that's crazy. I was actually playing. I was jamming at Les Claypool's party a couple of weeks ago. He turned 60, and Sean Lennon was playing keyboards. So I was actually on stage with John's son.
He was actually he took part in the short film.
Oh, he did?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
yeah. So it's all on YouTube.
I gotta watch it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's only like 12 minutes long, but it's very cool.
Awesome.
You bring up Les Claypool, another iconic rock bassist. I'm going to botch this quote from Geddy Lee, but basically he said that nobody ever aspires to play the bass, that they play guitar and then they join a band and then they get voted in as the bass player because they need one. Is that what happened to you?
Pretty much, yeah. It is. It's funny. Les said the same thing to me. We were touring and we were just chatting, and he was asking me questions, and he's like, "So what are your bass players?" I was like, "Well, I was actually, I was into like hair bands and stuff playing. I wanted to be ripping guitar solos when I was a teenager, or Angus Young or whatever. That was kind of I was an aspiring guitar player." And I asked for a guitar. I got it when I was 8 years old. I got my first acoustic guitar and started, taking some lessons. But there was a very cool music teacher we had there was a school orchestra, but he created a school rock band. So it was like the size of an orchestra, and he was leading it with the piano. But then we had like 3 guys on electric guitars. There were trumpets and other stuff as well, just to get everyone involved. But when I was able or, qualified to be in that band, it was called the Surleys. The other guys the guitar players were better and older than me. And the music teacher basically said, "Well, why don't you try the bass?" And that's the first time I played the bass. But I immediately loved it, and I got to stand next to Mr. Pape, who was playing the piano and leading the whole band, and I was like his right-hand man, So I like something about it was a very individual way of being in the band, it's like one of a kind, just the bass, So it really turned me on, that first experience, and I just kind of carried on from there. I tried to play guitar again later in my teens, but I just ended up playing bass every time.
Years ago, I talked to Tim Comerford from Rage Against the Machine about the relationship required between him and Brad Wilk and the rhythm section of a band. Can you talk to me about the relationship you have to have on stage with Danny Carey and holding up the rhythm part of just any band, but probably Tool more specific.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on with Danny. You know, he's got all kinds of stuff going on, and you're not always following the traditional drum and bass sort of rules. You know what I mean? Like traditionally you'd kind of hold on to the bass drum quite religiously, but there's so many different things going on with the dynamics of his drum kit. He's got electronic sounds. He's got, all the toms and the double kicks and all this stuff. And he's even got keyboards in there. So I'm quite at liberty to kind of follow any of those areas, so I can get really creative with where I am, what I'm playing in the song. I can get melodic, or I can just hold a groove down. I can concentrate just on the rhythm part of the song by following his foot, or I can sort of marry with the other stuff he's doing. So it's kind of it's pretty much like you can do whatever you want in this band, but if you stray away from the kick drum and the basic rhythm, it's amazing when you come back to it. You know what I mean? So that's we do that a lot until we kind of go, okay, that sounds great. Now what if we pull away from that and don't do that and go far away from it, and then when we come back to it, it's going to be really heavy. So I think that works a lot with the drum and bass too. We'll we'll avoid the real solid thread of the song for a little while, and then when you land on it, when you come back to it, it's even heavier than it would have been if you just started the song like that. So those are some of the techniques we use.
Matters Not Part 1, the new MTVoid album, comes out on the 10th. Mm-hmm. And when you focus on an experimental project like that, does that freedom to kind of let your brain wander also kind of make you better in Tool as well? Are they somewhat connected?
Yeah, I think it's like good to get out of your headspace with what you're doing. And it definitely, the one inspires the other, it's like, it's very cathartic, the one for the other, But yeah, I'm on the road with Tool right now, so there's a lot of Tool in my head right now.
You touched on it a little bit earlier. I have a theory about music, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's the soundtrack to your childhood, the music you get exposed to growing up unwillingly from your parents, your older siblings, your cool uncle. And then there's a day that you discover something probably in your adolescence and you go, that's me, that's what I like, and then everything changes. So what was the soundtrack to your childhood? And then what was it where you stepped out into your own musical identity?
God, well, it would, like you said, it's your parents' record collection. And it wasn't huge, their record collection, but they had stuff like, I loved the Buddy Holly record they had. I think it was just that one, the sort of brown sepia cover where he's on the front. I think it might even be his greatest hits, but that was really amazing. I'm sure that inspired me to want to play guitar, that particular record. But then they had, John Denver, Neil Diamond, Hot August Night. I love that album. They had ABBA records. I loved ABBA. God, Simon and Garfunkel was amazing. I remember listening to that and really loving that. They had a bunch of different stuff, but I think when I was 11, maybe, my brother gave me Highway to Hell, or maybe 12, something like that. And that really had a massive impact on me, hearing that music, just as far as wanting to play bass or guitar, and kind of, like you said, that's what I want to do kind of thing. That would be a big, big moment in my musical change.
Are you the only musician in the family? Does it run in the family?
Yeah, I am. I'm the only musician, but my older brother, Jim, was a massive influence on, he runs a record label. He runs Fiction in England and Caroline International. So he's always been a music person, but he's never played an instrument. So he used to always, he was the one that collected all the vinyl. He had a really heavy taste for a while. But, he'd play me, he'd go, just come in my room, check this out. And he'd play me Metallica or whatever. Like, he was he was out there all the time buying records and always listening to it. Like, he's a massive lover of music. So he always turns really interesting stuff my way. And he still does, working for these labels. He's always, I find it interesting what he's discovering. Because he's an explorer. He goes out there and he listens. He goes to lots of shows and he finds out what's going on. So somebody's got to do that, let me know what's good.
Well, you guys in Tool, whenever you go out on tour, always turn people on to newer artists because you're very eclectic in your choices of opening bands.
Yeah, well, we take it in turns. We basically go, okay, whose turn is it now? You're going to enjoy our opening band on this. Do you know anything about him?
Wait, who's opening up in Boston?
Steel Beans.
No, I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, you'll be very surprised. It's extremely interesting. It's almost like a one-man band, basically. It's just one guy, but he's like ripping on the drums, playing the guitar at the same time, and singing all at the same time. And it sounds like it could be kind of goofy, and it isn't at all. It's like really good, and he's got his own kind of. His songs are really cool. He sounds almost like Alice in Chains or something. He's got really cool material, But then to watch him, a big part of it is just watching him pull it off, like playing all these things at the same time.
Well, anybody that's going to see Tool, get there early so you can see Steel Beans.
Absolutely, I think it's like 7:30 he goes on, but it's really worth it. It's really fun, and he's funny as well. He's a comedian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's pretty funny.
There's a difference between learning how to play the guitar and being able to strum along with the young brothers growing up and discovering that you can actually compose your own music. When did you start actually writing your own music?
In my teens, probably. I don't want to say. I was about 13 when I was asked to play bass in another band. With some friends of my brothers, so they were all considerably older than me, and they, what were we called? I can't remember. Slice of Life or something like that. But we wrote our own music. We literally wrote a demo tape worth of music. We drove up to some place in the outskirts of London and recorded. It's my first recording experience in the basement of some guy's house, just with a rudimentary gear down there, but enough to actually put together. We had the tape reels and everything. So, yeah, it was probably like 12 or 13. I really started to actually write stuff. And it's one thing writing stuff, but then actually committing to it and saying, this is our song, or even like playing it live. That's playing your own stuff live is always a bit of a, stepping out into the void and kind of, how's this going to go,
For you, where do the ideas come from? Is it a riff? Is it a melody? Is it a lyric? Like, where does the first idea come from?
Yeah, I get a lot of rhythms in my head. I've said it before, but it's a lot of the times when I'm outside at home walking the dogs, something like that, and in my breath, or when I used to, at school, you used to have to, they make you run and stuff, and that your breathing rhythm, I'd always hear stuff in that and hear different melodies. So I get a lot of ideas when I'm outside that aren't necessarily music, they're more rhythmical, and then I'll kind of apply melody to that later. So a lot of those weird time rhythms in Tool is just from walking the dogs. And then you just sort of build on that, But yeah, so quite rhythms basically first for me.
You bring up the dogs. I have to ask this question, and I'm going to preface it.
Oh, I missed them.
It's a Geezer Butler. I blame Geezer because he dropped an interview with me that he's got 13 cats and 5 dogs. And when I asked him how he comes up with names for all of them, he said he names them all after gangster rappers. And I almost fell off my chair.
That's amazing.
And so now every artist that I have come on the show, I have to ask him the Geezer question about the names of their pets because it's his fault that I'm asking this ridiculous question.
Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah, no gangster rappers in my family, but it's I have a German Shepherd called Billy Blue, girl. She's about 9, and I have a Anatolian Shepherd mix. He's sort of mixed with Pitbull and a Labrador, and he's called Sumo.
Did you name them, or did you just get the names?
No, we named them both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They were very, they were little puppies, but and then we have a bunch of chickens, but we just call them like blue, white, red, whatever color they are. Lil Red.
I'm so envious of the craft of songwriting that I always ask songwriters this question because the answers are always fascinating. It's not a favorite song question by any means, but is there a song that you think is so perfectly crafted that you covet it and wish you wrote it? Any genre of music, any artist, that's inconsequential.
I mean, as far as, there's so many. I can't give you an answer of one, but I mean, I think they're just, I never ever think, I wish I'd written that song. But I find them very inspiring. It's like it shows you what potential there is when you hear something amazing like that. You're like, wow, how did they even come up with that? And it inspires me to think that anything's possible. The sky's the limit, and I'm always like trying to imagine, okay, what happens next in the song? I want it to be something that no one's expecting, or it's got to be something that I haven't thought of before. That's kind of the way my mind works when we're writing.
It could be somebody walking the dog. You just don't know.
It's right.
When I talk to guitar players and bass players alike, a lot of times the conversation goes to tone. And Slash told me that he is in this constant search of tone. Where do you attribute a player's tone comes from?
God, I guess it's what you're physically hearing. It's the way I always say this, that people, when we're mixing together as a band, or when we're listening to music together, people hear stuff completely differently. I mean, your ear is physically different than mine, and your brain, the way it receives that information, is all those pathways are completely unique to each individual. So I think tone is really what you like, but what you can actually physically capture in your ear as well. What's appealing to you? You know what I mean? So I understand that it's a constant search, because it's amazing how tiny little increments of change can change the sound so much, especially with other instruments. I'm starting to work with Mesa Boogie on a new cabinet, and I actually blew up last night. So I'm a bit upset about that, because we had a really rich addition to my tone, and it started to make the band sound even better, in my opinion. The separation between the guitar and the bass and the drums, I'd never heard it before. I mean, just like listening back to basic YouTube recordings and stuff, I'd just put them on the laptop and see what it's sounding like. It's not the best way of hearing it, but you get a pretty good idea of the overall sound. So yeah, I'm excited. I've found like a new level of bass tone that really works with the group, so it is a constant exploration, and it's you never know what's going to work, what you're going to find. So it's good and it's nice to keep changing your sound anyway. If you change your tone a little bit, it tends to affect the other instruments or the other musicians. Inspires something else different out of them as well.
As a bass player, not only with Tool, but MTVoid as well, you must be so happy this resurgence of vinyl.
Yeah.
Because it sounds, you talk about the listener's end, mm-hmm. and how we receive the music, and it's so warm that for you, you must be so happy that people are clamoring for vinyl again.
I am. I'm very happy. And we the reason it took a long time to release this MTVoid record, we did it during the pandemic, but we were desperate to do vinyl. We were really excited to do that. And we were pretty low on the totem pole of what's getting done. There was a big backlog of people wanting to print their albums. So we took a long time to make sure that we made that really cool, not just, sound right, but look really nice as well, and be, get back into that old experience of like opening it up, and there's a poster in there, and just creating the artwork. It was a big part of the release. We wanted to put a lot of effort into that. So yeah, I'm happy vinyl's back. I guess CDs are coming back as well, someone said.
Well, I'm trying to get over the fact that cassettes are back, because I think we can all agree that while it was a great innovation to make music more portable with the Walkman and all of that, the sound quality of cassette, not so much.
Not so much, yeah.
Yeah.
Are they coming back? You sure?
Oh, bands are making them. Newer bands are making them as like this retro thing.
It's like a novelty item. Right?
Yeah, and I'm like, I hope you're going to pack a pencil in with it, because the people are going to need it.
That's right. That's right.
I actually I have Mistress Carrie purple cassette rewinder pencils.
Wow.
Because if you don't know what I'm talking about, you weren't there the first time, and you'll know.
Have to bring one to the gig and chuck it up on stage. And I can help you.
And I'm not going to get arrested if I'm throwing pencils at Justin Chancellor.
I'll warn them in advance. There's going to be a cassette winder coming up on stage at some point.
Exactly. Well, the colored vinyl, too, there's so many different things that they can do now that they couldn't do when vinyl first came out. The glass, aren't you guys doing like a glass see-through limited vinyl for MTVoid?
Well, one of them's like a green, Coke bottle green, but the other one we're doing is we took all the scraps from other vinyl. It's like a multicolored thing where we just we're like, what can we do? It's a bit more, environmental in a way. And so we just used all the little bits and pieces that they cut off from all the different colors they're doing. And then you just kind of mix that together, and we did a batch of those. So that'll be fun.
You're going to be in Boston on November 15th. The new MTVoid album comes out on the 10th. And in order to get from where you are now to get to us in Boston, you're going to be on the bus a while. In the middle of the night, when you're not getting a perfect night's sleep and maybe the bus pulls over, what's the weirdest, craziest thing you've ever picked up in a truck stop? Because you've spent a lot of time on the road.
I have. Actually, my wife got this, but it was for my birthday, but she bought me a suit of armor. And that was at a truck stop in America. She came on the bus with a full, shield, chainmail, and a proper helmet. And I was like, where the hell did you get that? She's like, in the truck stop, they had a suit of armor for sale. And there it is. So I wore it for my birthday.
I have asked so many people that question, and I never in a million years thought I would get the answer, a suit of armor.
Yeah. I didn't even know that was possible, but that's what happened.
Yeah, I had no idea that was possible either. Before I let you go, I have to ask you this question, because I was in Vegas for opening night of the MSG Sphere. And,
oh, wow.
And while I couldn't get in to see you two because the tickets were just way more expensive than I could pay for, just being outside and experiencing this venue and this technology, and everybody started talking about what band would you love to see inside the Sphere, and Tool was at the top of everybody's list. Is it something that has even come across you guys' radar that you would even want to play? And is it something that you guys are considering and maybe even working on?
Well, they have approached us. They approached us a while ago, and I'm sure they've approached lots of people, to do it. But we have discussed it. I know it takes a great deal of work, it goes into that production. There's a lot of preparation that needs to be done. It wouldn't be so simple as just taking our show and making it, global on that screen. I mean, is it completely a dome, or it's almost around the whole thing, but it's not all?
Yeah, the way that the amphitheater seats are, so it's not complete 360 screen, but it's 160,000 square feet of screen, the LEDs.
Yeah.
So it completely wraps all around you. There were reports of people getting nauseous and getting vertigo because it's so kind of all encompassing.
Yeah, I mean, it's right up our alley. And I think they have a small version of it in LA on one of the studio lots. One of the film studios has it. They were talking about maybe we could go and check it out there, and just really find out. We're not quite clear on what actually goes into preparing your visuals for that show, and like how good does it really sound? Does it sound good in there? I know
every seat has a speaker. I heard it sounds great in literally every seat.
Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, we've talked about it. It's on the cards, let's say, but right now we've got quite a lot coming up. So it'll be a future thing, I think.
Well, and especially for somebody like you that loves not only obviously making the music, but so much of the visual stuff you were talking about with the inserts of the vinyl for MTVoid and all of that, to have a completely new way to express yourself visually. Again, technology leading the way.
I think it's more like making a movie, though. You have to like sit down with a director and you have to really plan out each song. So it's a big undertaking. I don't know how you two prepared for it, but it's definitely something we'd love to do, but we'll just have to see when we have the time.
Yeah, and you guys seem to be booked up for a while, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, the new MTVoid album comes out on the 10th, and then I will see you on the 15th in Boston for sure.
Cool.
I hope to pass you on your bicycle on the Charles.
I'll grab a cassette rewinding pencil off you if I do.
Yes. Oh, wait, I'll show you. They're right here. They're even purple. I will bring...
Amazing.
You know you're going to need one someday. Justin,
Excellent.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays and Happy New Year if I don't see you.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Have a great day. There he is, the one and only Justin Chancellor from Tool and MTVoid. The new MTVoid album, Matters Knot Pt.1, comes out this Friday, November 10th. Tool have also got a bunch of dates scheduled in New England over the next week. Check the links in the show notes of this episode to find all the dates and the links to get tickets. While you're checking out the show notes, you'll also find all of Justin Chancellor's links, the links to find MTVoid and Tool online, and of course, all the Mistress Carrie links too. And you'll find the link to this episode's corresponding playlist. I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features all of the music from my guests and the songs and artists we referenced in the interview. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the Sit Rep, which is all of your rock and music news and entertainment updates in around 5 minutes. You can find me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern on my official Facebook page from my video show, Cocktails in the War Room, and you can always find me on the radio. Get the details on all that and more at MistressCarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.
It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at PenFed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payer's funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
What does the word mixtape mean to you?
It was an art form, trying to woo them with my fantastic and eclectic taste in music.
If somebody gave you a mixtape, you felt like you really meant something to that person.
Mixtape to me is love.
My Weekly Mixtape is a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. Tune in to hear themed playlist curations.
No one in the history of anyone should ever put Pantera after Derek and the Dominoes, but here we are.
This is going to be the weirdest playlist ever created, and I love it.
One-on-one sit-downs with the artists that made our mixtape special in the first place.
It's Bill Gibson with Huey Lewis in the News.
I'm Art from the band Everclear.
This is Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
This is Frank Turner, and good Lord, you've made the right choice today.
And so much more. My Weekly Mixtape is a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Listen now at myweeklymixtape.com or by searching My Weekly Mixtape wherever you listen to podcasts.